to know it by heart. Oh, it's there.
How about that? All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the GRadulting Workshop Series. Today's topic is all about how to survive and thrive in graduate school. So I'm happy to see that we have several folks with us today joining us live on Zoom. And I know that there will be people who are viewing this on YouTube. So welcome to everyone. Glad you're here. My name is Debbie McCutsky, and I am the coordinator of services and programs for Graduate Student Legal Aid. And I've got some notes for the workshop today. I want you to note that automatic closed captioning has been enabled, so you can turn that on if you need to. We want the workshop today to not just be a presentation, but to really kind of be a conversation. So we welcome your questions, your comments. Use the chat, and you can always unmute if you have a comment you'd like to share. So near the end of the workshop, we will post a link to a 6-second survey. And I know you have 6 seconds, and it's only 4 questions, but we hope that you'll complete that because it helps us offer high quality workshops. We need your feedback. So I am joined by some presenters today who we are all charged with serving graduate students at the University of Maryland. First up, and I will introduce him even though he had to suddenly leave this morning, is Zach Mundy. And some of you may have already met with Zach about a legal issue, but he is our director and attorney for Graduate Student Legal Aid. He's also an adjunct faculty member at the College of BSOS, and he's the advisor for mock trial. And he has just been enormously helpful to hundreds and hundreds of students. So I am gonna pinch it for Zach today. But I am happy to welcome 2 speakers from the University of Maryland's Graduate School. We've got Dr. Linda McCree, who is the Director of Academic and Professional Development. She's also the Director of the Graduate School Writing Center. And next up will be Simone Warwick Bell, and she is the Graduate Academic Counselor, also one of the key helpers for graduate students. And last up will be Cody Rakoff. He is a advocate in the Graduate Student Legal Aid Office. So you don't have to listen to me all day today. You get to listen to some other valuable people who may be able to help you while you're here in graduate school. So let me start by sharing my screen. And before I get started, Linda, did you have anything to add about the recording or anything? Did I miss anything? Nope. Okay, great. Okay, hold on a second. I'm trying to share my screen, but that silly thing is in the way. There we go. Okay, can everybody see my screen? It's blue. Help me survive and thrive in grad school. Can you all see that? Terrific. All right. And I should mention that this workshop is made possible by the Graduate Student Legal Aid Office, the Graduate School, and Graduate Student Life. All right, so how did we come up with this workshop? Why are you here today? Why should you pay attention? And this is why. We asked graduate students over the summer this question: if you could travel back in time to when you started graduate school, what advice would you give yourself? And we had about 30 people reply to that question. And their advice kind of naturally fell into 4 main categories: time management, academic, self-care, and social. So in the absence of Zach Mundy, our director, I'm going to talk about time management. And first, let's look at the advice that we got from Emma. And she says that for perhaps the first time in your life, you do not have a definitive schedule and someone demanding that you be here at this time. Relish in this. It's going to feel enormously strange, but be confident in your own abilities and don't make excuses for yourself if you need to prioritize your own mental and physical health. It's now up to you to design how you will work, how you will succeed, and how you will live. Good advice, Emma. Thank you. The next was submitted anonymously, and they say, set clear routines and work-life balance boundaries from the start. This includes timeframes during which you respond to emails, when you work in the lab versus outside of the lab, etc. So here's someone who likes that structure, likes that schedule. And that works for lots of people. But I think we're going to see someone else that doesn't work for them. All right, let's look at the advice from Meenal. Develop a routine as fast as possible. Talk to your seniors if you are facing some challenges with finding a principal investigator. Choose courses wisely, and if possible, ask a person who already took the course about the course content, advisor, pace of the course, etc. There is no use wasting time and energy on learning a course not even vaguely related to your field of research interest. So I will tell you that along the way, you will hear conflicting advice. So I just want you all to figure out what works for you, but at the same time, be open to kind of what works for others. That will help you learn what works for you. All right, next piece of anonymous advice says, you deserve to take a break. You do not need to be working 24/7. And there's no reason to feel guilty for not working every hour of every day. If you can, take weekends and other specified time off from school. Good advice. So here's a bit of advice from our director and attorney, Zach Mundy. He would advise you to, if you get into trouble of any kind, to reach out to Graduate Student Legal Aid. Our services are free, they're confidential. Zach is on staff as our general services attorney, but we also have an immigration attorney that meets with students once a month. We have advocates on staff who help students who are charged by the university with a violation of the Code of Conduct or the Code of Academic Integrity. I'm a notary, so I will notarize documents for you. And of course, because you're here today, you know about the GRadulting Workshop Series. If you'd like to sign up for our weekly newsletter, we'll send this out later, and you'll see that there will be a link so that you'll get a reminder about what the coming workshop is. But we have a terrific website, and we're active on social media, so you can follow us. But we are just excited to share everything that we're doing so we can help you focus on being a grad student rather than focus on the problems that arise. So I will turn things over now to Dr. Linda McCree. Take it away, Linda.
Great, thank you, Debbie. So switching to advice about your academic work, although I would say this all kind of melds together in a lot of ways. Advice from Danielle is be as interdisciplinary as possible. Attend talks in other departments. Pay attention to the intersections of your discipline with other disciplines disciplines and develop relationships broadly. I think that's great advice, particularly if you're doing a doctorate, but even at the master's level, right? When you go forth from the university, you'll rarely be only with people that studied exactly what you studied, who were exactly in your discipline. And so being able to learn and talk across disciplines is going to be incredibly helpful, no matter where you go. Advice from Khalid: always keep a lookout for special lectures, research talks, sessions, luncheons, etc. You never know what piece of information. I'm not sure if that's a typo, or if I just don't know that word, or rather someone you meet will have a profound impact later in your grad career. Until then, you can enjoy some free food at the event, which I love that advice. And I think that's great advice about going to talks. That's part of why you're at a big, I would assume that's part of why you're at a big research university. Lots of amazing people pass through Maryland, in part because of its proximity to DC. So lots of opportunities and seize them. Advice from Talia: continue seeking out the people in your spheres, both academic and personal, and finding connections that support your growth as an educator, scholar, and human being. Don't be afraid to ask lots of questions. Don't be afraid to speak up when you see harm being done to others. Be brave and be honest and be yourself, and always get into necessary trouble. I think that's amazing advice. The beginning of that really speaks to some of what a lot of my colleagues in the graduate school would suggest about make sure you have mentors, not just one mentor, not just your advisor or your director, but people who you look to for a whole range of things. And that those mentors may be professors, they may be advanced graduate students in your lab, they may be other support staff on campus like me. And I love that get into brave trouble advice as well. And then the anonymous advice: research how to do a PhD. When you get into the program, there are guidelines and deadlines, and it's kind of presented that if you go through the steps, then you graduate. It's not like that at all. It's not that it's not like that at all. It's just not usually as linear as that, I would add. I wish I'd read through every link on the graduate school's webpage and Googled advice on how to get through a PhD. I think that's great advice. Certainly knowing all the guidelines is important, but there's all sorts of additional pieces, you could say, that are important to understand. So I think that's good advice. Befriend the director, the coordinator of graduate studies in your department. That's my advice to the staff person who's in charge. Will be an amazing asset. All right, Debbie, next one. All right, so this is a little bit more specifically for me. This is some of my advice. So just so that you know a few things you just heard, learn all you can about the PhD. The graduate school is that kind of description of our webpage, right, is really your home base, right? So you are located in a department, and that department, or in a program, and that's in a college. But as graduate students, the graduate school kind of oversees everything you do, from admissions to signing off on your diploma in 2 or 4 or 6 or 8 years. So our website is a wealth of information. And if you can't find something you're looking for, there's our email address as well. And then on the next couple of slides, I have a few specific things to point out about graduate school, the graduate school. So the graduate school has advocated this idea of graduate pathways, which already speaks to a lot of what other people have said, even kind of the 4 categories of advice that Debbie divided the advice into. So the graduate pathways are a way that we hope graduate students will kind of perceive, conceive, conceptualize their graduate school time, right? The idea of a pathway, to think that what you're doing in graduate school is not just what you're doing in your class or in your lab or in your research. It's a whole range of other things. So those icons from the green one across are: set your goals, become an expert, the little brain there, become an expert, manage your career, the little briefcase, communicate and lead, and then finally thrive, engage, thrive, and connect. That all of those should be important, kind of a holistic way to map out your time and your energy on campus. And at the graduate school, we offer a range of programming that addresses each of those. So as the director of the Graduate School Writing Center, obviously most of what I do is in the orange communicate and lead category. A lot of what my colleague Simone Workbell, who I'll introduce in just a minute, does is the engage, thrive, and connect in the purple one. I have a colleague who does specifically advice around careers for doctoral students. And that's the red one, Susan Martin, if you're a doctoral student. And if you're a master's student, your department probably has, or your college at least has some advice around career development. The librarians are fantastic for ways to think about becoming an expert. And we have lots of resources around thinking about setting your goals every semester as well. So that grad pathways, look for that. It's also the symbol that we use from the graduate school in our biweekly newsletter, where there's always a lot of information. So one more, someone talked about, sorry, I don't remember who, someone talked about interdisciplinary talks. I think that was Danielle's advice. And the graduate school, I'm just gonna plug a series that we run called Grad Terp Exchange, which the exact idea of Grad Terp Exchange is to encourage graduate students and postdocs to be interdisciplinary and to hear interdisciplinary talks. So we run these, if you've heard of Nerd Night or CMNS does something called Science on Tap, but ours is really explicitly for graduate students and postdocs to do short, informal talks. We used to do these at a bar downtown. That bar is closed, so we've been relocating, but we're going to start doing them. We did them all last year virtually. We're going to start doing them in hybrid form this semester, and we have our first one coming up on the 28th of September, so just a couple of weeks. It'll be in the Irabe Center, the computer science building on the lobby. You can register if you want to come. You could just drop by, but we'll also be doing it hybrid. So if you want to watch virtually, and all of our speakers, speaking again about interdisciplinarity, all of our speakers will be postdocs or graduate students from the Latin American and Caribbean Studies Center. So they come together from across disciplines to united by the connection of that their research has something to do with Latin America or the Caribbean, or that they're from Latin America or the Caribbean. And so they're amazing topics for research. And I'm happy to answer more questions about that too. And then finally, I'll tell you a little bit about the Writing Center. So if you did graduate school orientation, hopefully you saw my little talking head in our little video about the Writing Center, but I would encourage all of you to come to the Writing Center at some point in your career. The Writing Center will continue to offer most of its appointments virtually this semester, although we do have face-to-face appointments. We have drop-in appointments on Wednesday and Thursday, and Wednesday they're entirely virtual. Thursday they're hybrid, so you can join virtually or come to the Writing Center on the 5th floor of McKeldin and come ask me a question. And we say that the Writing Center supports your writing and also your oral presentations from beginning to end. So from conceptualizing an idea to really polishing it, whether that polish is the delivery for an oral presentation or the final edit for a paper. We're run by most of the appointments are by advanced graduate students from a whole range of disciplines. And I like to stress that coming to the Writing Center is not remedial. So it's not because there's something wrong with your writing or with your oral presentation, that instead it's that you understand that any writing or presenting that you're doing is meant to be for an audience. It's an act of communication. And so before you do it for the final time, you want to come and talk it through with someone to get some advice on how does it sound? Does it make sense? Have a conversation about your writing. So there's our website, and there's our email address. I'll also put my direct email address in the chat in just a second. And I'm happy to answer questions about specific services from the Writing Center if people have those. But now I think I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Simone Workbell. Simone, if you're ready up there. Simone? Or I could read this one and then, oh. I'll read these while we're waiting for Simone then, if that's okay, Debbie. So moving to self-care, so it's really Simone's area, but I'll lead off with this one. Advice from Sarah, practice. Oh, there you are, great, here you go, great.
Sorry, it might
No, that's fine.
freezes. Just let me know.
Turn
For
off
some
your
reason, it keeps coming
camera.
in and out.
So
You wanna
Simone,
yeah.
turn off the camera, and then we should be able to hear you. So try again, please.
My camera's
Oh, Marissa.
Camera's off, but I'm not sure that we're going to be able to hear you. Can we hear you? Can you say something?
sure. Test 1, 2. Can you hear
There you
me?
go.
Go for it. You want to start with advice from Sarah?
No. In terms of, hear me? No.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Advice from Sarah. Sarah mentioned practice gratitude to yourself. Going to grad school is a tough decision, and comparing yourself to others will lead to succeed. So if you are a person who compares themselves, sometimes it is credit school, and that can be synonymous with imposter syndrome. We have a couple of sessions on imposter syndrome that we put on weekly on Thursdays. Syndrome, there is a way to combat it and cope with it in a way that can help you feel successful while you're in graduate school. Some more anonymous advice. Be kind to yourself. Remember to establish a work-life balance early on to avoid burnout later on. This is especially true for a PhD program, but also for master students. I could not agree more. Doing a lot of work in terms of graduate schools. Inevitable at some points, but please, 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 if you see the signs, if you know you're headed to burnout, please seek help and support to that. The reason being is that burnout can lead to more serious mental health issues such as depression or anxiety. We're going to have a mental health check-in session on September 30th at 4 via Zoom. If you're kind of concerned, where am I on the burnout scale? Then please come to the session, hear some advice, learn some coping skills, as well as resources on campus. Advice from Ethan: set time aside for taking care of your physical exercise, get fresh air, eat healthy food, stick to a routine. By being conscious of schedule, routine habits, more comfortable and more enjoyable. I'm still learning this myself. Have appointments in terms of your mental health care and physical. You only get one body, one mind, so we can't buy a new one at the end of graduate school. Take care of yourself. It seems really simple to do, but even if it's taking a 15-minute, utilize that time to support your mental health and overall well-being. Advice, Sarah: have faith that you can and will figure out how it all works, and know that your capacity for learning is far greater credit for. Positive success. So if you are doubting yourself, try to have some faith in this process. Try to remain positive. You can't think positive about outcomes. Tend to have a more positive outcome. And sorry, I guess my internet is going in and out. It says it's unstable right now. Sumanshu, even if it involves you going through an unknown country. Absolutely. This can be an adjustment period for students who are not from this country, but it's never too late. There's a lot of support for students that are finding their own community while they're here at UMD. Advice from Dejina: it's normal to make mistakes. One mistake does not define who I am. Those mistakes, life teaches us to make mistakes and learn. Strive to be happy. Don't underestimate yourself and keep learning. Life is to realize la vida es bella. So we're all going to make mistakes in terms of academic learning. We're going to make mistakes just in life in general. The idea is that mistakes are not our defining moment. One of my favorite quotes is that not in that we fall, it's in that we fall and we get up. So if you're going to make a mistake, if something happens, it is not the end of the world. No, there is support. There is options to improve your learning and not being too harsh on yourself, and how to figure out how can you utilize this mistake to go forward in terms of your learning experience. And some advice from me, be proactive. The thing that I stress to students is to be proactive in your support. So if you are a student who finds mental health concerns, if you find you're a student who may be or stressed and you're just not sure where you want to start, please reach out to me. That's my email. Also, we have a ton of great resources on my landing page, which I will put in the chat. We have resources around mental health. Are running grad student workshops, grad student circle sessions. Those will be running bi-weekly this month, and we for this semester due to maternity leave. They're just a great resource for grad students. So I will put that in the chat, but definitely I cannot stress this enough. Please, please, please be proactive. It's better to before to when you are in crisis. So please seek that support. There are a lot of off campus. Please don't be shy. Feel free to reach out, and I will put my information in the chat as well. To Cody.
Hi. So my name is Cody. It says Martin, but I go by Cody. I was introduced earlier, but I'll say it again. I am a graduate student advocate at the Graduate Student Legal Aid. So if you need help, please make an appointment and I could help you. But moving on to some of the advice here. So we have some advice from Anmal. So if you're an international student, she says that it's very scary coming to a new country. You'll be nervous about finding friends and to getting accustomed to the new culture. But in the end, there's always someone you can relate to and become friends with. So essentially just keep looking, get involved, get active, and you can find your people. Advice from Shilpa. You can get more involved, start early, network more, participate outside the academic courses, and enjoy your life as a graduate student because it goes fast. And I will pass things on to Debbie.
Yeah, thanks, Cody. So I want to talk just for a few minutes about graduate student life, because those are the folks that do exactly what those students advised. Get connected, make time for fun. They are the folks that create the fun and help the University of Maryland feel more like home. You know, not just a place where you focus on your studies, but where you focus on yourself. And so they do all kinds of interesting things. They've got a big fall fest that will be coming up in October. They have book clubs, they do talks, they have free coffee Thursday in the lounge, which is located in Stamp. They send you a weekly newsletter. It goes to every graduate student and it talks about everything that they're planning. And I know they're very active on social media. So don't ignore those newsletters from Grad Student Life. Check it out because they are responsible for the fun. All right, so for everyone who submitted some advice, we did a raffle and the winner is Khalid. Woo! Thank you, Khalid, for your advice, and thank you to all the students that shared their advice. We will be sharing those pieces of advice again in our weekly newsletter, so watch out for that. And let's see, what's next? Remember that 6-second survey. I think that Cody's going to put that in the chat. And last thing, the workshop next Tuesday, 12:30 to 1:30, is Help Me with My Personal Finances. You can register for that on TerpLink. And after the workshop today, we will be sending you this presentation along with a link to the recording. And we'll also share the chat because I know a lot of good information was shared in the chat. So before we say farewell, does anyone have anything that they'd like to share in the chat? Well, at any time, you can reach out to any of us who presented today. We are here to help you, and we hope that you'll keep us busy. So thanks, everyone, for attending, and have a great week.
Everybody. Bye.